All right, let's get right into it. We are going to unpack how one of Sri Lanka's most vital maritime assets got snatched right from the brink of bankruptcy and found itself smack in the middle of a huge geopolitical power play. Yeah, this is the story of the Colombo Dockyard takeover. Let's be blunt. By late 2024, Colombo Dockyard was pretty much a walking ghost. The company was just hemorrhaging cash, losing its footing, and fast. I mean, the situation got so dire that its auditors dropped the two words that no investor ever wants to hear. It's basically the signal of a company's potential death spiral. And those two words, going concern. It sounds kind of technical, but it's really just accounting speak for a company that's teetering on the edge of total failure. And for Colombo Dockyard, trust me, this wasn't some quiet little warning. No, this was a full-blown, blaring red alert coming straight from their financial statements. And man, just look at how quickly things fell apart. So on June 10th, the SEC slaps them on the watch list. Not a good sign. Then, soon after that, their Japanese partner, Amici Dockyard, who'd been with them for 31 years, they just terminate their management agreement. They totally saw the writing on the wall. They knew there were no guarantees, no capital, basically no future. Okay, just a quick disclaimer here. This is purely a logical analysis, okay? It is not financial advice. I don't hold a single share in Colombo Dockyard. We're just here to follow the logic. All right, so the company is basically on life support, right? And then out of nowhere, this incredible opportunity emerges. But it's one that came with, let's call them billion rupee handcuffs. And this is where the story gets really ironic. While Colombo Dockyard is literally starving for cash, they somehow land the biggest contract in their entire history. We're talking a massive deal with France's Orange Marine to build two super high-tech cable-laying vessels. You know, the ships that lay the very backbone of the global internet? It was a total catch-22. It's like they had a winning lottery ticket, but absolutely no way to cash it in. So how do you build the biggest prize in your history when you don't even have the cash to turn on the lights? I mean, they were sitting on a gold mine with no shovel. They needed a rescuer, someone with deep pockets, and maybe even more importantly, someone with sovereign backing. And that's when Mazagon Dock Shipbuilders, or MDL from India, steps onto the scene. And let me tell you, they didn't show up to negotiate. They came to execute. So on January 19th, 2026, MDL pulls off what I'm calling a sovereign snatch. They scooped up a controlling 41.73% stake in the company. How? By picking up all the shares their former Japanese partner couldn't subscribe to. A brilliant move. Now, here is the most critical number in this whole deal. You've got to listen to this. They got those shares for a fixed price of just 40 Sri Lankan rupees each. You got to remember that number, 40. Why is that number so important? Well, because just 3 days later, on January 22nd, the open market was trading those exact same shares for 136 rupees. That is a staggering 240% premium over what the Indians just paid. So you have to ask yourself, why would anyone do that? Why would the market pay so much more? It's because the market is betting on what it thinks is a sure thing. And the logic, when you think about it, is pretty simple. MDL's entry is seen as a sovereign guarantee. It all but secures that huge Orange Marine contract, and it's expected to clean up the balance sheet. The probability of this bet paying off? I'd say it's pretty high. Why? Because MDL isn't just any old company. It is literally an arm of the Indian Defense Ministry. And let's be real, they don't go around buying strategic shipyards just to let them fail. Okay, before we dive into MDL's roadmap for the company, I just need to take a quick sidebar. We just hit 1,000 subscribers. You're here because you want the real, unfiltered analysis, and I just want to say I really appreciate that. My target, our target, is 10,000 of the sharpest minds in the region. So if you're not subscribed yet and you value this kind of data, you're missing the stuff everyone else is too polite to talk about. So go on, hit that button. Okay, now let's get back to the numbers. So what happens now? Well, MDL isn't just throwing money at the problem and hoping for the best. Oh no. They have a very clinical, very strategic plan to completely transform this company. So MDL's big plan is to make Colombo Dockyard completely debt-free in about 5 to 6 years. Here's how they're going to do it. Step 1. They've got the right to invest up to $53 million to push their stake past 51%. That means total control. Step 2 is really clever. They'll plug the shipyard right into the Indian defense supply chain. Think about it. Cheaper steel, cheaper tech, that means much higher margins. And finally, step 3. Because they crossed that 30% ownership threshold, the rules say they have to make a mandatory offer to buy out all the remaining shareholders. It's a clean sweep. And all of this, it brings us to the final act. Because if you think this whole thing was just about saving a company, or even just about building a couple of ships, well, you've kind of missed the real story here. Let's be crystal clear about this. This was not a bailout. It was a strategic acquisition of a critical node in the Indian Ocean. This move, it's a central piece in India's Maritime Amrit Kaal 2047 vision. That's their long-term plan to create Indian-managed hubs all across the region. Look, let me put it another way, maybe more bluntly. Colombo Dockyard is no longer just a Sri Lankan shipyard. It's basically an Indian naval outpost wearing commercial clothing. So where do we go from here? Well, the Securities and Exchange Commission gave the company a bit of a reprieve. They gave them a hard deadline to get their house in order, and that deadline is June 11th, 2026. That is the real deadline. That's the date to watch. The game has totally changed, the players are new, and believe me, the stakes have never been higher. So watch the volume, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.